Kevin, we're recording. You want to jump into it?
Let's do it. Boom. What is up, everybody? How we doing? How we feeling? Welcome to another episode of the FinalVibe podcast. My name is Kevin Reap, and alongside me is my co-host, Andrew White.
I'm here as always. Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. Are you ready for episode 11?
I think I am. And we've got an exciting guest this week.
We do. FinalVibe is all about your pursuit of legacy, and this podcast explores all aspects of life and legacy through discussions with all walks of life. We are thrilled today to welcome John Hall to the podcast. John, you are an entrepreneur, author of a book, Top of Mind, a keynote speaker, and so much more. You join us today in studio for a more in-depth conversation about all of those things. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. You guys have awesome voices on this. I got to say, I do a lot of podcasts, and this could be fun.
It feels good? All right,
Yeah, it
good.
feels
Hey,
I like Kevin's voice. I don't think mine fits, but I like yours a lot.
I mean, if I got to carry it, then I will, I got it.
Totally.
Somebody's always got
Put
it.
the team on your back.
That's right. Well, John, first, let's get started. Just describe yourself. How would you tell a person what you do?
A variety of things. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but also, most importantly, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I try to spend a lot of time at home with family. So that's like the first core to me. And then after that, it is, in reality, building companies. I think that I actually just got in a discussion today about what motivates me, and I think money is fun, and but at the same time, for me, money, like I can make money by myself. I've proven that. I've proven that with speaking and doing different things. For me, the motivation is building great things with great people. And so that's kind of what motivates me at this moment professionally. And so it's really timely with COVID, especially because people are like, oh, everybody go virtual? Should you have all these virtual teams? And for me, that's just not as exciting in this world. I want to be around people that love being around each other, that build each other up, that enhance each other's lives. And so for me as an entrepreneur, I think that's a core part of me, and what makes me a little different is that I'm focused on building great things with great people. And sometimes I'll make decisions that aren't necessarily money-based, but it's, for what's best for that.
Sure. Yeah, awesome. Let's dive more into the entrepreneur side of things. I listened to a podcast you did with John Lee Dumas, and you talked about being an entrepreneur, and you told him that you were an entrepreneur since third grade.
Mm-hmm.
I have a similar story because you said that you sold Twinkies and Ho-Hos. I sold gum when I was in middle school to kids for about 25 cents a stick. So I was also in the early entrepreneur game. I think I got the itch from The Apprentice because it came out when I was like 13, and I was fascinated by business and trying to learn this. Where do you think you got that itch from to go so into business at such a young age?
I think there are elements of natural personality that that contributes to things like that. I also think it was my mom and dad and different people in my life that kind of sparked that. So, for example, my mom had me selling cheese and sausage and pizza and popcorn and things like that when I was in first, second grade, and she would help drop me off, but she would not go up to the door with me. That's why I will never buy Girl Scout cookies from a parent. And I've been like a boss where they're like, oh my gosh, my boss team order. I will buy like 15 boxes if a kid sells me. If a parent sells me, they're getting zero.
Yeah,
I don't care. Yeah, and so for me, I grew up that way with my mother. She just would say, hey, you can do this. Go out there and I'll give you the tools, but this is your job to do. And so I think it created this element of, I don't know, I wanted to do the work. I enjoyed it. At first, it was scary as a young kid to do things like that, but then they're natural. Like if you're a friend of mine, you would say, well, we're friends now. Let's just call us friends. But you would realize I don't have an awkward button. So that's unique in an entrepreneur is that it's very hard to make me feel awkward. And that comes from me as a kid. And I think as an entrepreneur, you need a level of confidence in yourself. You need to balance that off with cockiness because I also went through a stage of my life where I was very cocky as well. But I think the spark was generated by that confidence and success early. As crazy as it was, I had a very successful lunch business in third grade. I got suspended for it because, I was affecting the school lunch is that people were going to cold lunches more than hot. And people realized that the principal got wind of it, and I was actually affecting the school's logistics as a third grader.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
shaking up the industry.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it sparked, and then it went from there. And I had some success, and then from there was multiple things that kind of contributed. So I think once you get on a track and you have that confidence and you feed off of it, it just it's not necessarily just addictive, but it's a thrill and it's fun to do.
Sure. And I feel like so much of that confidence, you're not just going to get it overnight. It does take some of those awkward, kind of going through some of those experiences where you're going to do things for the first time that you've never done before. And then it's going to get more comfortable as you continue to do it.
Yeah, you're right. I think on that same, Josh Lee Dumas, JLD, on that same podcast, I talked about when we first started Influence and Co. And I was at a conference in DC, and it was one of our early conferences. I still felt like the last kid picked in dodgeball because everybody else knew each other. They're all friends, and I was this person that walked up, and I was trying to have conversations, and they just didn't give me the time of day. Now that wasn't a good feeling. I went home, I called my wife, I was in like had tears in my eyes, and I was like all nervous. This company's gonna fail because like I mean I can't even people won't even talk to me when I try and create deals and do this and so I don't want to act like I figured it out at a young age because I still that was when I was like 27 or 28 when that happened. And I learned from that too because the next day I got up super early, stayed up all night, and I just refused to give up, and I persevered through that, and we got 4 or 5 big clients from that event. And so seeing that now, I'm 36, and so when you get here, you've had enough of those awkward. I'm the last kid picked in dodgeball, and you just have to keep persevering. You have to keep embracing it. Those feelings aren't comfortable, even for me, as confident as I can come off. Those still felt very awkward and uncomfortable, but now I'm just better and I can kind of power through them.
I love it.
John, I'm sure you get a lot of questions about being an entrepreneur, but I would love to know how you view being an entrepreneur in terms of your style. So, one of the things I want to know is you have a reputation for being a very generous guy, and I want to know where that comes from because a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of aggressive, and I feel like the stereotype often can be that they leave pretty much anyone in their wake as long as they get the ultimate business endeavor. But I don't personally experience that from you. So, what's your take on the generosity?
Well, yeah, thanks for the kind words because I want to work at that. I wasn't always built like that. I think aspects come from, I think it's who you surround yourself with is a key thing that makes you be better at that because I wasn't always like that. I think there was some natural abilities I've talked to you about my parents are very giving people. And so I think that started out some of those things. But I think that I strongly encourage like part of legacy is who you're around and you surround yourself with. And I am a very big believer of getting rid of toxins who bring the worst out of you. And you want to surround yourself with people that will bring the best out of you. At an early age, I'd be like, oh, I want to surround myself with billionaires and millionaires and people because if I'm around these people, I'll become that. And then I met enough billionaires and millionaires that they're a bunch of assholes. And no offense, there's some really cool people out there. But like I'd sit down and I remember this one dinner where I was like this by far the least wealthy financially at this table. And we were talking about success, and these 6 people, 2 of them were billionaires at the table, and they basically said they were not happy as people, and they started talking about how they've been selfish, how they and it well actually there's the one that was probably the next financially wealthy for me was all happy, and a lot of the happiness came from he was there for his kids. All the other ones were like divorced or having problems. A lot of them don't pay attention to their kids on at that table, but this person was like, "Hey, I try to give to others. I try to, be a good husband. I try to be a good, and these are the things that I look at this new version of wealth." And we're actually my business partner and I are working on a book about this new version of wealth. And I think that we measure wealth differently now. And I think generosity and helpfulness is a measure of wealth to me. Is that the more you can give to others and look out for others, enhance their lives, the more that's a currency. So like if you or Andrew come to me in 5 years and you say, hey, you were like by something you did and impacted my life that made me enjoy life more or have a better family life or something like that. That to me is a currency. And so, I look at the people, the first thing is the people I surround myself with. I want to be surrounded by giving people. So in business, John Ruhlin is one of my better friends. He wrote the book Giftology. He's a super thoughtful person. My business partner is John Rampton, who is an extremely giving person. Kelsey, my last business partner, was a very giving person. If you run through, I mean, employees that I have now, Alexa, as you know her, very giving. If you run through each of the employees, they have aspects of giving to them. So I try to be an architect of putting people around me that will bring the best out of me. And I think that inspires me more to give And I also like being around people that are appreciative, that are grateful, that do give to others as well, and it fuels that. When people don't appreciate it and people are pretty crappy to others, I pretty much get that away from that because I think that can bring people down. And even in this last year, I helped somebody out in a meaningful way over the years that brought me down and prevented me from helping. For about 2 months, I didn't want to give to anybody. And so, but even not being around that individual afterwards, I got revived again. And so I think that that'd be my advice is that, those people can bring you down. It can prevent you from wanting to give. But if you keep surrounding yourself with those types of people, like the Alexas, the Misties of the world that I was just name dropping, it makes me continue to want to do more. And also, it will call me out when I'm not giving, or I'm crappy or something. Then you have people who can sit you down and be like, dude, you're being a huge ass or you're being a douche. And I need that because in reality, when you have confidence and if you do have success, you need the people that are going to ground you. So,
I love what you said about success because that's something we've talked about when we obviously we talk about legacy a lot. And there is that mentality that money is success, but all it takes is a dinner with a couple millionaires to learn that doesn't have to. That's not always the case. A lot of times, it probably isn't the case a majority of the time.
yeah, there's these situations. I really challenge people to embrace moments that can be weird or awkward or like I had this moment that a guy I respected was just we were at a Rams game in a box there, and his wife just destroyed him about how he was a terrible husband. And I remember watching that, and I was like, I would pay $1 billion. I didn't have one. I might have had like 10,000 in the bank, maybe. But like I looked at him. I was like, I would pay $1 billion to not have that feeling. Like I saw that and I was like, dude, I like, and this was somebody I admired prior. And I think back to that and I'm like, man, there's different forms of wealth. Like legacy is so important from a currency of wealth. And that's actually like kind of an element of the book we're working on right now is that, when you look at your legacy and, who's talking at your funeral, what are they saying and all those things that go into it, how your kids look at you, how, a lot of times it's like, for example, I used to just want like tons of acquaintances. I wanted to be popular in high school, but a lot of those people don't really, you can't change or impact their lives. And so they don't impact your legacy. And so that's why, surrounding yourself with the right people, I look at that helping your legacy currency. And the more those people are around and the more you build up, enhance their lives, they're at your funeral saying, this is a guy that made my life better, or this is a woman that made my life better. And I think that's just an important aspect of currency for me.
Well, I was going to say you touched on you brought up the family aspect. I want to talk about that in respect to your life because you have 3 kids and
Mhm.
you are successful from a business standpoint. How do you balance those two things, and how do you take that into account with raising 3 kids and keeping legacy in mind, and then also everything else that you're balancing? And I would imagine the level of work that you do. If you wanted to work 24 hours a day, you could.
Mhm.
So what does balance look like for you, and how do you make sure that everybody is happy and moving forward in the best way?
I mean, that's tough because I didn't even when I thought I had balance, I didn't. And so it's like your self-awareness is a huge thing with balance. But for me, I look at family, like just even in the last year, I realized how much, and probably in the last 3 or 4 years, I've been married for 11 years. And I'll just tell you is that like that relationship needed more focus. I needed to be a better husband. I think I was good. And I think that I provide him, like I enhanced my wife's life, but I would almost say there were certain things that clouded my vision. Like I just described it to a friend is that I had glasses on when looking at my wife, and there was like a cloudy shadiness to them over the years. And in this last year, part of it, the pandemic did kind of help with clearing up, but also I would compare her to other wives. I would do things to me that's like toxic. It's like the grass is not greener because like for example, there was a situation where I always used to look up to a wife that was around us, and then I found out there's this huge black swan craziness that I had no idea. And I'm like, go home to my wife. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I apologize for ever comparing you to this person. And I think we do natural, I think we do natural things that prevent us from having better legacy. Like to me, I thought I was, a good husband, but I'm honestly telling you, for 7 years, I probably had shades on where I was looking at other wives and be like, "Oh, your wife's cool about that," or "Your wife's." And I think that in this last year, I've really focused on who my wife is and that solid base. And I think that it's had our relationship grow a ton, which affects our wife, our kids, because I'm a firm believer of if you're, good to your spouse, your kids are going to turn out better. A lot of my friends growing up that the spouses were always fighting, they turned up, those friends turned up pretty weird, honestly, and challenging and anger issues and stuff like that. And so I do think that for me, it's very, very important to focus on that relationship with your spouse. And I think that the happier you two are together, the more that filters towards your kids. And then with your kids, to me, it's like parenting is one of the hardest. It's been one of the most rewarding. It's probably the most rewarding thing in my life. But at the same time, it's hard. You always feel like you could be doing better. And I think that for me, that legacy is I'm doing everything I can. That some things are going to be in my control. Like I always write that Venn diagram when I'm thinking about things, and it's two circles, and it's like things in your control is the left circle, and things that matters are the right circle, and you always try and focus on the middle. And so, like when your kid irritates you, whatever, it's like that doesn't matter, and it's like you need to move past that. It's like it's a part, and you need to cherish it in ways. And so, I think for me, I just consistently look at I need to value it, and I need to also value it just as much as I value work. And I didn't always do that, and now I think I'm better at work because I think I'm happier at home, and overall, I mean, I think that's helped legacy.
I wanna push into that idea of taking the things that you can control and
Mhm.
focusing on those. Do you think that too many people spend too much time worrying about things that are absolutely outside of their control?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that that's a huge problem. I mean, what I love that diagram or the Venn diagram is for focus. So the if you get all of the things that are distracting you that are out of your control or don't matter out of the way, and you're able to create mental space, you can really focus on what matters, and it allows you to focus your time and mental energy on things that are in your control. So it's not like it just you can just draw it out, and I keep one at my desk. So for example, we're doing a development, it's 3 acre development. You're gonna come out and hang out, hopefully, and see it when we open it up. And we hit rock, earlier this year, and we did a geotech report. We did everything we could, but it was not in our control. We're just the area that we didn't, drill was a big old piece of rock, like big. And it's like 3, 4 times more than we projected. Now somebody comes in, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And because in that circle, that was in the things in my control. I did not I did not know Mother Nature was going to put a big old thing of rock there. But in reality, I moved on very quickly. And then I was able to focus on what I needed that day. A lot of people would focus on that all day and be like, crap, I'm mad, I'm upset. And this happened the other day where an employee of ours got conned by a writer. And this guy, Bob's the employee, which, he's a really nice guy. And he's just freaking out about it, just like really upset and down on himself. And I just walk in, I go, Bob, and I had to pay this. Normally, once you get conned, you lose a lot more money, but this was $40. So I was like, I'm just going to pay this. And he's like, but this, I'm like, Bob, this was out of your control. This is someone who is somewhat con artisty. Let's just pay them, get them out of our life, and let's move on. And he's just like stunned, like, how is this not bothering you more? I'm like, because there's people out there that do things like this. But if you let this bother you, it's like you're drinking the poison and you're expecting them to die. And that doesn't happen with people who screw you over. You need to keep a clear head and like think about that as that you're only hurting yourself when you let something like that distract you. So I think that's a very important everyday thought process of does this matter and did I control or could I have done anything to prevent it? If it doesn't, then I don't care.
That's huge, I love that. Kevin, do you resonate with that at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think that is beautifully said. I think, yeah, 100%.
I would
Cool.
have loved if he was like, absolutely not. I think this guy's an
It's
idiot.
honestly not how I think about it at all.
Couldn't disagree more. So diving more into business, and I think there's a lot of people listening who are interested in business, and now with COVID, a lot of people are. This is a fantastic time to start a side project if you've had one in the back of your mind for a while. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, what are mistakes that you see people make when they are trying to launch a new business?
So a couple things with entrepreneurship. It's I mean, obviously it's hard, and when you look at any stat, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, but let's say 98% of startups fail. I don't know, it's something high. It's in the 90s. Um, you increase your chance as there's different things that contribute to you starting a company. So the first thing, talent. Do you have unique talent abilities? And what I mean by that is like people, staff, a network with skills like are you going to have to just roll the dice and hope that people want to come work for you? So it's like if you have an advantage in an industry or doing something where you have people that you have a network or you've been exposed to in some way that you can connect and get talent, that's key. Because even if you're a rock star at the beginning, you got to scale at some point and you have to have good people around you. So so let's say you're I don't know, let's just throw numbers out there. Let's say your chance of success was 4%. If you have that going for you, I'm going to add about 15% to your chance of success. So now you're at, let's say, 19, 20% success. The next thing is, do you have the ability to focus and actually make this work? Now, if you have, I mean, today we had the chance, or yesterday we had the chance of acquiring a company where I legitimately just told my business partner, I'm like, I think the opportunity is here. We could offer more money and get this, and we'll make money off it. But we're going to have an opportunity cost of our focus because then we're going to start dealing with this. We'll take some time off the other 14 companies that that are in our holding company. And so I just said, I'm starting to get to a limit. We need to catch up on talent, some hiring, training, things like that. So, and I'm okay with missing that opportunity because it would hurt my focus and that decreases the chance of those other 14, doing well. And I don't want to do that. So I think that in that case, then your next thing is, can I focus? Can I dedicate the right of time and give this the love that it needs? If you do, that increases your chance, let's say another 10%. Then after that, is there an opportunity like where you have a sales pipeline or a way to start? Because your first customers are the hardest. The first 5, 10 are by far the hardest for most companies. So it's like, are you in a situation where you have that ability to get that 5, 10 set up to bring some income in, to learn, to do that, and so then you increase, let's say, another 10%. So there's those things. So when somebody comes to me and I'm looking at their company, a lot of times it'll be like, "Hey, we know startups are, hard and, there's only a small chance of success." But I'm like, Yeah, but I think that that's a kind of a BS general statistics of startups fail. I think if you do things that all contribute, you have a higher chance. Now you can get up to 70% and still fail. You could like my business partner started a company where Amazon, like he was doing a couple $100 million in revenue. Amazon just turned him off one day back in the day, and he legitimately was screwed. Now he had team, he was smart, he had all these things lined up, but he had the rug basically taken from under him. So that's an example of he was at probably 70 or 80% chance with all the things he had going. He had financing really well, he had all these things, but Amazon, so he still lost. So my advice to or to entrepreneurs is to do everything you can to increase the likelihood of success. And I can never guarantee success. You can, like my business partner, he's a smart dude, and he didn't see that one coming. But I would just tell you is that keep looking at those contributing factors to a successful company, and if you do have those things set up, you're going to have a higher chance, and chances will be better than a 5% someone just with a cool idea.
I love the idea of looking at success from a percentage like that and,
hmm
and who can increase that percentage. And then thinking about focus as an opportunity cost is also a nugget that I took away from that. I like that, where like, what is this actually? It might not cost financially anything that you can't handle, but there is a chance that it takes more from the mental capacity that you have that could outweigh a potential benefit from it as well.
Yeah, and everything's got a cost to it. Your time, like I own I'm a founder of calendar.com. So it's like I know more about time than most people because we have a lot of data about time. And everything has an opportunity cost of how you spend your time. Even at a standpoint of like adding an additional company in a way that's, let's say that's 5 hours of my time a week. That's 5 hours I could have been spending with my wife and kids. So that has a cost to me. What's the value that I put on that? Well, not many people put a value on that time, but it is valuable. So I think that from my standpoint, there's an opportunity cost of everything, and you got to evaluate everything when you're doing companies, when you're investing in things, when you're looking at it. And at this point in my life, I'm lucky where I can pick and choose a little more. When I was in my I mean, even 2 or 3 years ago, I wasn't as lucky, so I did have to just take what I could get. The goal for me was to get into a situation where I could turn down things because I have an issue called with FOMO. So I have the fear of missing out with many things, whether it's a party I like and my friends are going to. I'm like, oh, I wish I was there, and or I'm at the same time I'm like, well, if I miss out, that's gonna be the one, that's gonna be the company that just takes off, and I have to be okay with that. Like I have to be okay with, I'm happy. I've got good, friends. I've got a great wife and kids. I've got just great companies. I'm gonna miss out on things, and that's okay. And I think that's something that you have to get across your head with mental strength because if you do that then you're going to jump on things and jump on things and jump on things, and then you'll miss out on some of the great things like family, friends, and also the right idea that you could truly invest in.
Kevin and I talked last week about this famous line that one of the Carnegie guys said, where he was just like, "One more dollar. Like, what will be enough? One more dollar." So I'm
Mhm.
curious, do you ever struggle with the idea of contentment as an entrepreneur or as just someone who's seen success in business? And if so, what does it look like, and what is enough in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely struggle with contentment. I think that's one of the biggest problems in right now, and especially with the next generation that's coming up. It's almost contentment is a very big challenge. It was a challenge with my with friends. I mean, I have a good friend that legitimately wants to change jobs like every year or two, and I'm just like, why? It's like, well, I mean, like this other job's coming up, and you're like, when are you going to be happy? What is it going to take? Like the grass is greener is such a toxic mentality. I think that it's like if you're in a toxic culture, then bounce from it. But if you have the chance to, and you're happy and you're being taken care of, and you can work and you know the people, and that's why I like with our culture, it's like I always talk about making each other better, looking out for each other, because if we do that, we hit that grass is greener where people start thinking, hey, like I don't think about the grass is greener as much because I know I'm in a culture where that people are going to look out for me. Where because like trying to fight people on money, like somebody's always going to offer more money. There's always going to be some like company coming up or that can come in and say I'll beat them by 5% with your employees. And for me, it's like what you've talked about or you've seen with generosity. Like I go to and like before I got here, I just dropped off a computer personally because one of our employees, and ironically with Alexa, I did that 2 weeks ago for your spouse. And tomorrow I'm dropping off a bike for someone. And I think that I want my staff and people to realize that they're not going to go to many places where the owner of the company is going to come to their house, drop things off consistently, going to show up in a gingerbread costume on their birthday to surprise them. I did that with
Yeah,
one
that's
of
it.
them.
That's a story for maybe a few minutes from
Yeah,
now.
but I want people to know that and also feel comfortable. I'm also by far the most made fun of person in our organization. Like the next person isn't even like half of how much people make fun of me. Um, and so I think that for me, contentment, I try to really work with people around me on it because I've had to work on it myself. I just explained the wife thing where I was comparing my wife to others, where now I have a very content mindset on my wife, is that I'm very content. I can honestly tell you guys, since we're in the trust circle and not being recorded, that I am truly content and I don't compare my wife to others anymore. And also at the same time, just for mental strength, it's like eh, you always want more and you always but I'm the one thing that has helped me with contentment is I meet like role models and idols. And I'll just share like Mark Cuban is an example of somebody that was a role model for me in entrepreneurship. And I had a chance to we've done work with his companies and he's a great guy. I've had a couple dinners with him. I was actually there for his birthday, like it was like 6 or 7 years ago, and I was around him and we were just talking and he was such an honest like guy with like happiness and he was like, "Man, it's like," he's like, "You just don't know, who's around you because you're a celebrity, you don't know." It's like and like I was listening and just hearing him and I was like, "Oh my god, like I've looked up this guy wanting to be him for so many years and so impressed." And then like I'm listening to him and his life isn't like the perfect little thing that I thought it was. And he was very helpful with me with contentment because he helped me kind of understand that like I don't look at role models anymore as the Cubans of the world or the Elon Musk. My role models are people around me that help me become better. So if like, an Alexa or somebody on the team or just how kind you are to me, Andrew, is that like it's inspiring to me. So like you're in a way a role model. And so I have a lot of role models around me. And what I try to do is I try to identify people who have characteristics that I really value and get excited about. And then when I learn from those and become better, I think it makes me be like I'm being at the top of my game, which makes me more content that I'm working on it. And I'm not worried about like the other things. I'm not worried that this person's always gonna have more money than me. This person's always gonna have nicer things than me. And I think that those are the things over time that I end up valuing, and then I feel more secure in myself. But it's taken me, I wouldn't even say like the wife thing was this last year, but it probably took me 35 years of life to actually understand that like life is good. We're very blessed. I'm very lucky. Um, and yeah, but I think that it's a major, major challenge with the grass is greener mentality in not just us, but the next generation. I hope that that's one of my key things I want to help that next generation understand is that, there's ways to reach contentment and mental stability where you're truly happy, but you need help and you need to be self-aware of what you need to work on.
That's super well said. First of all, thank you for the kind words. That's really nice. And I appreciate your transparency on that because I think a lot of people would be tempted to say that they don't struggle with contentment or that they are already content because I don't know, it's not necessarily like the coolest thing in the world to feel like you don't have it all together.
Mhm.
But I super appreciate that and I respect that about you. Kevin, what do you think about contentment?
I mean,
Is it
first of all, I've already written the word transparency down because what you're sharing is phenomenal. I think that everybody's going to get a lot from this just because of what you're willing to share. So thank you for that. And contentment is, I think it is something that everybody will struggle with at various levels and various stages in their life. And for me, COVID was a big moment where I got to realize how blessed I
Mhm.
am and my family and where we are at and kind of put things into perspective for me. So I would say for me, it's been more recent where I've come to appreciate what I have and been able to pump the brakes a little bit on what I want to have and realize that it doesn't take everything that you think you need to be happy.
Yeah, and I think it's like, why do you do what you do? Like, what's a and you read like Simon Sinek's Why, Start with Why. Like, I use some of that in my book, and it's like, why do you do what you do? And like a lot of times, you work your butt off to get to a point where you make more money and you can buy nicer things. But it's like, as funny as that is, I've been to the nicer thing realm, and I had more fun when I was in Boone's Farm, land in a parking lot, drinking out of a trash bag. Well, I wasn't drinking out of the trash bag. The Boone's Farm was in a
sure?
trash can. That'd been weird. But like I had more fun with that, and it was the people. When I think back to being around that garage or the garbage can, I look at the people. And then like it was like 2 or 3 years. I mean, like I get paid to travel and speak all over the world. Not at the moment, but last year, I really ramped up my speaking. And I remember I was in, I think it was Tahoe. It was like a 5-star hotel, and I was like sitting there drinking this really fancy wine. And I'm sitting there, and I was like, damn, I'm like not happy right now. Like I'm just sitting here. Most people would be like, this is the life. And I was just like sad because I was like not with people I love and like, I don't know, for me, I've been in that world for a little bit and I've tried to act like I like it, but in reality I don't. Like I like I don't know, for me it's the people, it's experiences, it's this other version of wealth where you look at like we've addressed legacy, experiences, something I haven't talked about with like that version of wealth is that having experiences with people that you care about and sharing them together, that's a form of wealth. But to me, like the difference between I was joking around, I called it a call liquor life because like I always get call liquors when I go out. Like very rarely do I get like something upscale. And like people are like even if they're like, oh, it's all you can drink, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't care. Like I like call liquor because it's good and I'm content with it. And then occasionally when there's like something really cool that comes in, I appreciate it more. Cause like if I always drank, I don't know, if I was always drinking Pappy Van Winkle and then somebody brings up like a Maker's Mark, I'm gonna be like, ugh. And I think that's a terrible, like I don't like that.
You
Like
don't want to be that guy?
no, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that is like, "Hey, like, I'm good with this." Like, I mean, I'm good with the I don't know, I mean, I was just drinking well, yesterday, and so I was just like, "It's fine." Because I think that, like, the idea that I'm even allowed to like, I had a Moscow Mule, for example, that I'm allowed to do that. Like, in COVID right now, there's people that are fighting for their, like, survival, and I'm sitting here being like, "Oh, man, I really need to work hard so I go from well to, like, Tito's to Grey Goose to" like, I don't know what the rating is, but, like, I think that that's what I try and think about is that when there's a gosh, I forgot. There was a movie that I watched. I can't even think of the name, but it had where like somebody scarfed down a steak and they didn't even enjoy a piece of it because they were just, oh, I'm in a hurry. But it was like an awesome steak and they didn't take the time. Then the next thing he did was like he had this like glass of wine that he just pounded. And it was like, what the hell are you doing those things for? It makes zero sense. And so I think that finding the value and like I try to reflect and say like within this COVID world, there's a lot of people struggling and I'm in a very, very blessed position that I'm even like spending, money on a well Moscow Mule. And I think that that level of contentment, I think there's the first aspect of it where, you really try and surround yourself with good people. And then, but I also think that you reflect on others who have had challenges. And I think COVID was a big old punch in the face for me from a standpoint of like, I am very lucky and I need to give more. I need to look out for others more. And then also I need to be very grateful for what I have.
Super well said. I was going to touch on something. You said that you've sort of tasted that good life in
Mhm.
bits and pieces, and maybe you could have pressed into it more if you wanted to. What's up with Columbia, Missouri? Yeah, it seems like you're a guy who could live probably in a lot bigger cities with a lot more clout and hype and all that. Why do you choose to stay in town?
As funny as that is, that's like a crazy like when I speak at events, like especially like Vegas, New York, and those things. That's always like Columbia, Missouri. Even when I was at the United Nations, they introduced me and they said Columbia, South Carolina, and I was like, I don't even think that's. I don't even know if is there. Yeah, I guess there's a Columbia. Yeah, so, yeah, that's a capital or something, isn't there? Or is it Charleston? I don't know.
I think it's Charleston,
Yeah,
but the
but
university's there.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's Columbia, South Carolina, I
Yeah.
think.
Yes.
So they said Columbia, South Carolina. I was like, and then and the guy looks at me and he's like, South America, and I was like,
Do I look the part?
yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah, um, that is actually funny that the same trip I did say Colombia to somebody, so they thought I spoke Spanish. They just kept speaking Spanish in front of me, and I never corrected
So
them.
funny.
Like you would have been good because you speak it. I don't.
Could have faked it.
So yeah, no, I did fake it the whole time. Like I just sitting there and nodded while they were talking. So
Si, senor.
anyway, yes. So anyway, so the Colombia, so that is brought up all the time, and for me, I've traveled all over, and some of the kindest people are in the Midwest. Some of the people that look out for, like one of my big things is look out for people, listen, try and help out, and that's not as natural when I'm in LA. Do I love visiting? I mean, one of my good friends is in LA. I love going there and drinking on the beach and having some, But in reality, the people here, I mean, I'll be in New York, people will be still in my cabs like pretty much every trip I'm up there. Which there's some nice people there too, so I don't want to diss them. There's some really good friends up there. And I just look at, goes back to contentment is I like it. We have a good base. There's relationships here that I've formed with people that would be almost impossible or hard to develop because they've developed over a 16-year span, when longer 18-year span. And so for me, I'm content in Columbia, Missouri, and I think it has a lot to offer. I mean, it has a ton to offer, and that's where like building this campus here was a big it was a big showing of how I feel about the city because Salt Lake was wanting us to go out there. We have an office out there. San Francisco was wanting us. We had an office there prior to Salt Lake, and we had people calling. I probably get a call every 3 or 4 weeks trying to get us, my business partner and I, to their city to develop companies or do something like that. Peoria, Illinois, where I'm from, they called 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they were saying, "Hey, come back here and start companies." And I just look at it as what makes me happier is the people creating an opportunity. I think here there's more opportunity to make a difference than in San Francisco or Salt Lake. They already have some really cool things going. Columbia has so much to offer in the people and the community and the cool things that we have here that make it great. It makes it very homey. Like I'm like I think it's going to be a differentiating factor that I did a development that is 200 yards away from my house. So when somebody flies into the Columbia Airport in the cornfields, they're going to go and basically be like, "What the heck's going on with this airport?" Then they're going to get off. We'll personally pick them up. They'll come over. We'll go and show them this nice office that's fun, very like entertaining. That is very different than they've seen. It's got skee ball in it and shuffleboard and some fun things. Granted, we're gonna have a place to work. I don't want you to think we're just gonna be
It's
playing.
not just all fun.
No, it's very clear that there's going
disappointing.
to be a divide. I don't want to, and I'm not going to market that a ton. Is
course.
that I don't want people to come work for us because we're fun. I want them to work because they can offer value. But that visitor will come in and be able to go into my house, have a dinner on with my wife and family on our porch, and then I can walk them back. We'll have a company, basically a condo where people can stay, and it adds this element where wow, like that's very special. Like there's those things just don't exist in like Seattle, New York, where there's this homey feel. I don't want to say it's like a Hallmark movie, but in reality, somebody's going to come here and be like, I feel closer to John and his team because the way that this community is. And like people, like the idea that I'm in a neighborhood where I'll walk by and everybody's like, hi, hey, like when I walk in in an LA, like I don't get a bunch of waves to be honest with you. And I think that it's a huge differentiating factor when we bring people to this community. And I think overall it will help our business. And I think at the same time, the more we grow and, create great things around here, we're going to change this community and we want to be good employers. There's people like the Bukowskis. Brant is a friend of mine who started VU and with his brother. And I think people like that around here are amazing to have. And I like, those are two people when we talk about role models from a standpoint of, empathy, from a standpoint of humility. Those are two people, and I know Brant more than Brock, but like he's a good example of like I want to be something like that for the community where we not only grow companies, but we grow them in the right way where people are, taking care of their fun, they're listened to, and so yeah.
Fantastic. You mentioned your book, top of mind.
hmm
What can you share with our listeners, maybe a takeaway from that book? And then what was the process like of putting all of those thoughts into a tangible book that you can now sell and put your name on?
Yeah, so I had a lot of help with that. And so a lot of times people think authors write all their own books. Like that's just I don't know many authors who actually did that, to be honest with you. I think that that's a misinterpretation where they see an author's name and they're like, "Wow, they wrote every word." That's just not the truth. The truth is that like I mean, at that time I had a team where there's probably 3 or 4 pretty awesome women that I mean, even my editor Casey at McGraw-Hill, she was great to work with. And then, I mean, there was previous Influence Co. employees, my co-founder at Influence Co. We all kind of like, yeah, I would put down a lot of the ideas. So like the way the process kind of worked is that I would jot down and write down different things, and I would give them speeches and things I've worked on, and then I'd identify things like here's an example or here's a personal story. So if you look at what I contributed, it's a lot of really raw form, and it's like here's an example, here's the outline, here are the things like so I would almost say it's like I was the managing editor and I like pulled in all these different things that because I think you should play to your strengths. I'm not as crazy as it is. I write all over the place, but I'm not an amazing writer. I think my like ACT like writing and reading score were like it was low. I don't even want to say it was probably like animal like a monkey got that. And so I've always been a math, science, and like thinker, but I also think you play to your strengths. Is I want to be around people that complement. So the people that were on the book, the writers, the editors, they really brought a lot of the flow and those things. So what to me was really rewarding is that I had these ideas, these personal stories, these experiences where I screwed up and where I had successes that then you bring in and you put these amazing people that have these skill sets to make it turn into something that as funny as it is, I was going for like a Harry Potter read. Like I hate business books that like are boring, and so like I on purpose said, guys, like I liked reading Harry Potter. Like there's a lot of people because I wanted to help a lot of people with the book. And so I think my book, I'm not saying it's a Harry Potter book, but it's easy to read. You can get through it in a couple days, and that's what I was going for. So when I got the finished product, it meant a lot to me because I saw each stage of that and I knew that the original ideas and the core of it was me. But to go from the core of is this going to turn out okay to these people that kind of put it all together, that was very meaningful and it was pretty awesome to experience.
I like that so much because it speaks to the power of team.
Mhm.
And one thing that I'm realizing in this podcast more than I did before the podcast is that you have a really good grip on what it's like to bring the right people together, even if they're not individually each the most talented person. They all bring a unique element, and you identify that unique trait in them, and synergistically, everything sort of makes the magic happen. And that's really cool. And it seems like that's kind of what happened with the book, you know?
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I think that I look for core things. There's certain things that can be taught, and I think that there's certain reads that I make. Like, I mean, today we hired someone, and there was 150 applicants that we went through, and we did 35 screening calls. And do you know who did those screening calls? I did. And so, people were like, "Why the heck are you spending your time doing screening?" Because I put so much value on those. Like, I mean, in reality, like Alexa's a good example. Sorry, I keep bringing up your spouse, but she's cool. But like, I look at that and I'm like, you remember that football game that when I was interviewing her, and I asked you what you thought of, what was the thing you valued most about her, and do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I said that she was loyal.
Yeah, she was loyal. And the two most important things for people and at that time I was evaluating to be around me. It was a different position and she just was too good for it. And so we had to move her on. And I wouldn't punish her that much because then she would have to work with me for a lot longer directly. But like that's it. You said she was loyal. And so when you look at loyalty and trust, those are the two things. And honestly, in this last year, loyalty and trust means more to me than almost anything. It's like loyalty and trust, and the next things are, I mean, it's so far down there. So when I looked at you and I could tell how like how that was, how you were there, and then I look at her and I saw this like potential and excitement to do really great things, and she was green. I like that's exciting. She could have said my major's like flute, and I'd have been like, I don't care. Like I legitimately like I haven't looked at her resume as funny as it is. Well, somebody threw a resume like a couple of weeks ago, but I had a really good streak of like not hiring with the resume
You're
for like
probably
5
upset
years.
when you finally looked at it.
I was
Said, "I
mad. I was
blew
like,
the
don't put
streak.
this in front of me. I haven't
Ruined it.
looked at
Get
one
this
in
out of
5
here."
years. But I think that for me, those things, like that's a very perfect example of you look at core values and you look at things that are really important to you and your team. And then the other things can be taught as long as someone's willing to learn. So, like when I'm looking there, I'm looking at trust, loyalty, willingness to learn, and natural intelligence. And that's what lined up for me. So, when people are like, what the heck, you did an interview at a football game eating burgers with her husband and mother in law? I'm
My
like,
mom was there,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, what the
Susie
heck?
was there.
And she was awesome too. But I look at that and I'm like, those are things where, a lot of times people are like, where'd you go to school or where this? And I'm just not like that. I'm just not wired that way. And you're right. It's like, I like bringing together, people that, cause once again, it's like when you measure like, I don't know. Like I'd put a lot of the people I work with versus like a Harvard MBA in a second because they just have emotional intelligence. They have this willingness and challenge to learn. They have all these things that I think that a school doesn't necessarily provide you with, which I really value.
I think that's so interesting because it seems like we're in a day and age where people are finally realizing that your school smarts don't necessarily predict any sort of performance in the career that you go into. And so it's all about finding what actually matters for your purposes.
Yeah, and school plays a part. Like without school, like I was able to be around some really good people. I was able to become very resourceful. So I was not a good like a great student. You can actually one of our kind of my like outsourced CFO that I'll occasionally use. She was I got my master's in accounting, and she was like, "Oh my God, you drove me nuts as a student." Like her name's Rebecca Neves. She's a really cool person. And, when she walked in the door, like, she was recommended. I didn't even, like, look at her name because she was recommended. They say, "You gotta talk to this person whenever have some, accounting questions beyond your view, you can bring her in." So I bring her in, and I look at her, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I remember you looking at me in school and being like" she helped me out, but she was helpful. And, but she'll tell you is, like, I was still able to get A's, but I wasn't in class very much. So I learned how to be very resourceful in school and get what the end result that I wanted, and then the output, like, the reason why I wasn't lazy is I was working 55 hours a week, 60 hours a week at a full-time job while I was going to school. But at the same time, school taught me how to be resourceful, be around the right people. So I don't want to diss school too much, but you also got to understand that there's a lot more value in some of the traits we just talked about than if they learn trigonometry.
Sure.
Street smarts
Yeah.
versus book smarts.
And emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, Kevin, before we run out of time here, I think we need to ask John the legacy question.
I was going to say, yeah, there's a
Why
couple
don't you give it
questions
to
we
him?
have to
Why
get
don't you
to.
give it to him?
So I guess overall, we've touched on it a little bit, but what does legacy mean to you when it's all said and done? And you, like you said, someone's speaking at your funeral, and it can be a dark thing to think about and talk about. But what do you hope that your legacy is all about?
I mean, there's an element of so like I use that example just because that's a common one said is like who's gonna talk at your funeral, but it's also how do you live with yourself and be proud of the person that you are. And I think that that's a very big element of legacy is that we're only on this earth for a short period of time. So what did we do? And a lot of us waste time. I know I wasted a lot of time doing some stupid things in my day, or when I was younger. But like you look at it as like what's important to you? What is truly important where, when I'm 70 or 80, I'm looking back and I'm saying, I'm proud of this. Like, and I'm not proud of like I don't know, doing shots at Harpo's in college. Like, I barely even remember that stuff. Now, granted, I don't want to diss Harpo's a good restaurant here and bar, but the things that I look at as I look at the experiences and the things where I was there for people and they were there for me. I went through a challenging time this last year, and I look at the friends that were there and that listened and I'll look back at those things and I think it's not just all successes, it's how you handled failures, how you got through them. And so what legacy means to me is it's like, when I look at the person that I want to be, and I know I'm flawed. I'm very flawed still. I think I've gotten better, but it's like working out those kinks. I think that's like the legacy over time is that legacy isn't earned by one thing to me or like one instance. It's just this consistent effort to be better, to learn, to be a better version of yourself. And I think that, if I'm looked at as Hall was here, when he was in his 18, 20, and then when he, 70 and all the in between, did he work on becoming a better version of himself? And did he, redefine how he looked at wealth and these different things? Was he there for people? Was he a good husband? Was he a good father? Was he, did he make a ton of money, but did he make it in the right way? Did I throw people under the bus to do it? Because there's a lot of people I know that legitimately sold their like grandmother to make money, and I don't want to do that. I think that like I could have, like it's not just where you end up, because like in reality is that somebody could be like, this person died a multimillionaire or billionaire, and to me that's not legacy. Legacy is like, how did they do that? Like, what did they do? Did they help someone on that way? Who did they surround themselves with? What are like that's the nuances when I think of legacy that gets me super excited about it, and also it makes me feel very challenged. It's kind of a guiding force of a code with me where, and like I said, I'm still working on this. Like it's like I'm 36 and I'm still like I'll still get frustrated. I'll still act out of anger sometimes. I'll still do things where I'll regret handling it a certain way. But yeah, I think that for me, that's the thing that I wanna look at is I wanna look back, be proud, and be happy and say, "Hey, you weren't perfect, but you did try to be better. You tried to, do the right things. You tried to learn. You tried to, make life easier for other not easier, but you helped people's lives become better, whether it was my kids, whether it's you guys that I just meet, whether it's, helping someone out that needed it. Those are the things that I incorporate in legacy, and the more that I have success in business, the more that I need to remember that because then I'm in a higher position to help and to do more, and I have influence. People will take my calls. So that's and it gets me excited to be able to do more good. And the kind of next stage of my life, like right now, I'm still in the business world, but like it's been on my radar to do more nonprofit stuff. Now, this last year, I tried to do that and I failed miserably because I was conned really bad. I mean, like I lost about $25,000, so it's like a big chunk of money. But like that was a part of my legacy learning. Was that a failure? Yeah, and I was sad and I was hurt by it. But like, if in the long run, I'll look at it and I'll be like, you know what? I mean, in the long run, that's probably going to make me do more, and I'll probably have more in the future to give. And so this could be a part of learning from that to be in a better person where I can actually do more good.
One thing I pulled out of that was legacy is not just the outcome at the end of your life
Mhm.
when it's all said and done, but it's the story along the way, and it's the people that you helped out. And that's good for me to hear because Kevin and I talk about legacy every week, and it is tempting to think on a macro level of what you'll be remembered for. But I think there's more power in the micro moments along the way and that person that you were across the span of the last 50 years of your life rather than just the guy you were when you actually passed on your deathbed.
Yeah, and the
So,
memories and like the experiences. Like I remember sitting in Palm Springs after my the last company. Kelsey was my co-founder there. We won the Entrepreneur of the Year in the Midwest here for Ernst and Young, and I remember sitting there where I was talking to her. Her husband was at the table, and Journey was playing, and there's fireworks, and I love fireworks, and so you had those, and I remember that moment where we were talking and reflecting over challenges over different things that we got past together, and I'll always remember that. And like I think I'll remember that when I'm 60 or 70 if unless I have dementia or something like that, but I'll remember those things where I look back and like that's a moment that stands out where we reflected on things, we were celebrating that success, we reflected on failures and things and we smiled at each other and those are things that I think are a really good part. And to do that, to earn those moments, you have to do a lot of work and you have to, do the right things.
That was beautifully said. Might be a good place to wrap it up.
could be a great place to wrap it up.
Could be. I think we could maybe, if you're down for it, we could have you back because we got to about a third of, I think, the topics that I wanted to cover. So we should
Come
sometime
back in a few months whenever the audience has tripled and
yeah, we'll do part two.
Happy to help. Anything I can do to help you guys. You guys are good people.
And we really do appreciate your time. And like I said, your transparency, I think I have no doubt people are going to listen to this and take away a lot of different things that they can apply immediately into their own lives to not just for business, but also legacy and their personal life. So thank you again for taking the time to hang out with us and answer our questions.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we can find your book, Top of Mind, on
Yeah, Amazon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Go on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or really anywhere. Just type in top of mind John Hall and it should be easy. If it's
all
not
the places.
if it's not, contact me and then I'll get you one.
No, it's on Amazon. I can verify that at least as of an hour ago is on there still. So
Cool.
Perfect.
cool. Well, thank you, John.
Thanks,
we appreciate
John.
it.
You're the man.
All right, thanks.
All right, folks. That was our interview with John Hall. John gave us an hour to sit down and chat with him, and we took advantage of every second that we possibly could. Like I said, there's a lot left that we wanted to talk to him. We would hopefully have him back someday to cover everything else that he's doing because he's a busy guy and he's doing a lot of really cool things. But we still wanted to hang out for a couple minutes after this episode just to say what's up and to potentially leave you guys with even more valuable nuggets that you can potentially put into place today.
Pro tips, nuggets, how to optimize your life in those little tiny ways. I'm feeling pretty excited. And you're right, Kevin. That was a ferocious hour with John, but I liked it.
That was the fastest hour of my life.
It was fast.
Yeah, I didn't look at my watch for the first time until like 40 minutes in.
That's right.
And then I started freaking out because we didn't get to the protein
We
question.
didn't, and I'm so bummed. I may text him later and just say, John, how much protein do you eat per day? Can we put it in the show notes?
Don't give him any context. Just
No
text him that.
context.
How much
It's
protein?
important to know. It's important to know.
I guess we'll assume it was Chick-fil-A was the favorite.
We have to. We have no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the question we decided is, what's your second favorite? So who knows what it'll be. Kevin, let's kick them off with our first pro tip. So you and I were sitting here talking, and we were like, there are so many things that we do and we learn about from other people that are just nice little candies to add to your life in terms of usually productivity. Tell the people about Overcast.
Overcast is my podcast platform of choice.
It is?
It is.
Oh, mine too.
No way.
Yeah.
Mine, it's been mine for years. I absolutely love it. So if you right now are looking for an app, maybe use the Apple iTunes podcast app, whatever you use, Overcast is fantastic. Not only is it clean and sleek and easy to download your episodes, but it can make your life drastically more efficient because it has a tool called Smart Speed. So with Overcast, essentially, it will automatically remove the spaces in between the words. So if you talk slow like I probably do, it'll speed it up a little bit and save you a dramatic amount of time. I don't know how long I've had Overcast, but it tells me that Smart Speed, just removing the spaces in between the words, has saved me 177 hours.
Woo!
That's a lot.
That's
of time.
actually a big deal. Like,
That's a
I'm
huge
sitting
deal.
here reacting like an idiot, but how many hours?
177. That's almost 7.5 days.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You've literally saved a week. And that's like that's what we're talking about here. I mean, FinalVibe is a lot of things. It's legacy. Man, if you get to save a full week of your life just by making a quick switch on one of your podcasting streaming services, what the heck? Why would you not do that?
Yeah. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, so that number's high, of course, and I've been doing it for a while.
Totally.
But yeah, check out Overcast if you have not. You can download the FinalVibe podcast in the app. You can give us a star, by the way, just an aside. But yeah, every other podcast that you listen to is on there.
You sure could do that.
You can speed it up 2 times and whatever else and delete episodes automatically, only save 3 episodes. It's a fantastic
It's crazy.
tool.
I think what's so nice is it's so highly customizable. Kevin, do you go premium?
I do, but I just recently did. So it's definitely not needed. It's $9.99, but you can upload your own MP3 files. So I can upload raw FinalVibe podcast episodes and then listen to them in Smart Speed.
And that's actually pretty crazy.
It's
I
pretty
remember
crazy.
you told me you were doing that, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because honestly, when we're reviewing the podcast each week to make sure we didn't say anything super terrible, I'm doing it through, like, what is it? Gmail, Google Drive. It's terrible.
Old school.
What are we doing?
Old school.
Got to level up. Yeah. So
Level up.
anyway, pro tip number 1, think about using Overcast. We're not affiliated with Overcast in any
It
way.
sounds like we are, but
We're
not.
totally not. We're just like literally sharing nuggets of our life that make it better. Kevin saved, what was it, 47 years? No, you said something like a week.
7.5
It's
days.
crazy though. I also, pro tip, this is on the very same note. A lot of people do this. A lot of people don't do this. So if you don't do this, I watch YouTube in 1.25 speed.
I forget you can do that.
Yeah, I don't love going 1.5. I'll do 1.5 if it's mostly words. It does goof with the quality. And I'm just going to say this. I'm going to go on record. How have they not gotten an algorithm yet to not distort the voices when you speed it up? I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't know. You're the voice guy.
Well, it's not that hard. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe they have the knowledge that I do, and they just can't figure it out because I don't know.
I
anything.
refuse to believe that YouTube doesn't have anybody who can do that. Come on, YouTube.
Yeah, they should do it.
Be better. I'm a loyal consumer of your content.
Apparently,
me out.
Netflix is looking into the speed options as well because people want to be able to cruise through their binge watching sessions
that's so
faster.
weird.
But yeah, all the directors,
TV?
but the directors of these movies and TV shows hate it
Yeah.
because a director like Martin Scorsese has designed this movie to be watched in the 4.5 hours,
Right.
and not a
That's a
second
total
sooner.
violation of like the artistic integrity of the film.
Yep, I heard they were going to do it and then not do it. Now they kind of want to do it again, so we'll see.
Here's what's going to happen. You know exactly what's going to happen. Netflix will refuse because they're the big boy. But then we're gonna have some side company who's like, "You wanna watch all your favorite movies in 2 times? We can do that."
Yeah.
And then it's a takeover. And then all of a sudden, just like Uber, no more taxis.
Yeah.
The death of the taxi.
But then to follow this up after talking about Overcast and how I listen to all of my podcasts at 2 times the speed, are we just chasing more content
Yeah.
in less time?
Yeah.
That can be dangerous
It
too.
is. It is dangerous. So I think that's good that there should be a disclaimer there. Make sure you get a grip on your life. I just know that I want to listen to that content, and we have busy lives, and a lot of people do. So if you can sneak an extra 10 minutes into your day and get 20 minutes out of the content, I'm in for that.
Yeah.
Me personally.
Yeah.
Nugget number 2, Kevin, we both use the Reminders app.
We do.
Just the default Reminders app on our iPhones.
I talked
why
to
do we do that?
Siri. I talk to Siri maybe more than I talk to anybody else.
You just boss her
I
around.
just boss her around all day long. Tell me
Are you
this,
rude?
remind me that. When do I got to get my laundry out?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm rude. I'm pretty nice to Siri. I'm more rude to Google. I also have Google Home in my house, and she reads me the news and reminds me to do things.
Oh, she's a sweet person.
Very sweet. I wish her name wasn't Google.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
like
not
saying,
attractive.
"Hey Google,
Google.
turn the exactly." We do every night before bed say, "Hey Google, turn off the lights." I don't like that part of it because it's just, "Hey brand, turn off the lights." It's weird.
Yeah.
But I think the Reminders app and the ability that we have just in our voice while we're driving or on a bike or whatever it is, you think of something. I've tried so hard over the years, and now I think I'm pretty good at it, of just getting in the habit of, I'm not actually going to remember this, even if I think I'm
You're
going
totally not.
to. Totally not.
You're just not.
So I will guess when I may need to remember this tomorrow, and I will tell Siri that, and then it'll pop up, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that," and now I didn't.
That's the key. You have to be intuitive about when is going to be a good time for you to see that reminder. So it's like, if you find out that you're having dinner with another couple on Friday, don't just say, "Hey Siri, remind me dinner with so and so on Friday." That's not like super helpful. What I would do is say, "Hey, remind me on Thursday night at 10 p.m." And that way, right before your bed, you're like, "Oh yeah, like I'm engaging with the reality that we're going to go on dinner." I'll plan my whole day on Thursday night to get ahead of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just got to be smart about it.
And you could set up recurring reminders that you can check off.
You can.
Like vitamins, 12:30. I checked that off. Guess what? It's going to go off tomorrow at 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
I have, it looks like, maybe 16 pending reminders.
And so one thing that bugs me is I've got a couple on here that have been here for too long. Like they've
That's
been
the
on here
worst.
so long that I just have sort of glazed over them. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know what? Here, I'm going to do this. I'm going public. Here we go. Throwing ourselves under the bus, going public. I'm going to challenge myself to knock out all of these that have been on here way too long.
I will
by
remind you next week. Okay.
Yeah, remind me next week.
Last time we went,
Yeah.
this 10,000 calorie challenge thing that
Yeah.
we committed to.
We did.
Wow.
I can't wait, man.
I'm getting nervous.
Nah, don't be. You're going to thrive.
I hope so.
You'll be in purest form. Love it.
That probably is.
Speaking
might
of
be grossed out.
calories, Kevin, another thing we wanted to pitch to people, just another tidbit of life that we wanted to share is you and I are both really into the pure protein bars right now.
We are.
Ooh, what's your favorite flavor right now?
Birthday cake,
Yeah,
which is
you're a
like,
child.
I'm a child. And I think we looked at the numbers. It's got 10 more calories than the others,
Okay,
but it has sprinkles. So
worth it? I think so.
everyone so far has been worth it. There's nothing like waking up and grabbing a birthday cake flavored protein bar. But for real though, it's like 160 calories and 20 grams of protein.
It's 180 calories.
180.
So the default one that I get most often, my wife and I will buy a box of the chocolate deluxe at Walmart. So the reason I like pure protein, great macros, tasty enough because we've all had that nasty protein bar.
Yeah, it
out
doesn't
there.
have that protein
Ooh.
flavor.
Yeah, it doesn't really.
Mm.
To me, it legitimately tastes like a chocolate bar.
100%. I completely agree.
I eat 2 at a time because hashtag muscle protein synthesis. Why only have 20 grams when you could have 40?
It's a great point.
Seriously, what are you doing? You telling me you can't make room for 180 calories? I'm not talking to you, Kevin. I'm just saying, you listening, why are you not eating 40 grams of protein in your serving?
And I think people listening, if you've not seen these or other protein bars, they're not as big as you think they would need to be for
No.
for 40 grams. And that's something, I mean, we kind of joke about the protein thing, but it's important in
Part
the
of my
sense
life,
that
man.
we talked about it in the Slack channel that we have.
All the time.
And all the time. But I feel like now that we have people who are actually trying to incorporate protein into their morning, they're realizing that they're more efficient, they have more energy, they're less hungry.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. So
It's interesting.
Yeah, so
Thinking
these-
about it.
pure protein bars, or just find a quick, easy,
Yeah.
macro-friendly way
Got to
to.
be macro friendly.
Yeah, it's not difficult to double your protein
It's really not.
If you shop around some of these.
You just got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say my favorite, lemon cake. Oh, dude, I had 2 on the way over here. My wife scolded me for eating 2 at a time. She was like, "No wonder our grocery budget is so high." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm a man. I need my lemon cake protein."
You need it. I had one of those this morning. I went
Thanks,
with lemon.
babe, for your grace. Let's see here. Kevin, you've been eating a certain sandwich that I'm intrigued by lately.
I have.
What's your go-to, Sammy?
I've shared this on Instagram stories. I think now we're getting to the point where does this become a food truck? I don't know. Not really. It's not going to become that. But I call it the French Leghorn. So what you do is you buy French toast bagels that require refrigeration.
Oh.
I don't know why, but those make this better.
Well, it's because they're fresher.
They're fresher.
Yeah,
that's
fewer
why.
Preservatives. Yeah, it's like
Sure.
Is it like Ezekiel bread or something?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know the brand. It doesn't have to be this brand. French toast bagel, you toast it. Then you put 1.5 tablespoons of mayo on it, both sides, just a little bit. 1.5 mayo, 1.5 between the 2 bagels, right?
Yeah.
2 slices of sharp cheddar cheese.
Oh.
And then depending on your protein needs, somewhere between probably 4 to 6 ounces of deli chicken.
Yeah.
It's got to be sliced from the deli, no prepackaged.
Go to the deli. Where do you get your, are you Schnucks guy?
No, for chicken, I like Hy-Vee.
Yeah, me too.
Who do they have? What is it? It's not Schnucks.
Deluso.
Boar's Head. Deluso. Yes, the Deluso oven roasted chicken, 10 out of 10. Nothing else comes close.
Dude, this reminds me. Perfect 4th nugget for these people. The sandwich deals at Hy-Vee during the week.
Yeah, the dinner, lunch for sure.
No,
right?
the lunch I'm talking about the lunch.
The lunch
sandwich.
one, yeah.
So if you don't know this, go to the Hy-Vee on the intersection of Providence and Nightfall and Grindstone, and you can get your sandwich of the day. I forget what they are, but it's like a panini, Hawaiian bread, all the things, a harvester. They will load you up with that deli meat. You will be getting 50 grams of protein in that sandwich.
Yeah.
Now, just don't bomb it with mayonnaise, people.
You can ask for light.
Oh, yeah, go light.
But
Treat yourself.
It doesn't take much to bomb an entire sandwich
You
with
can
mayo.
wreck your caloric needs with mayonnaise.
Yeah, Jimmy John's figured that out real fast.
Dude, Jimmy John's Firehouse Subs is really bad about it too. No shade, but stop. Stop doing that.
Give us the option at least.
Seriously.
The go-to shouldn't probably be you can't see the bread.
Yeah, it's like one time I asked for it on the side and there was a cup in the bag and I was like, I didn't order a drink. It was mayonnaise, the whole cup. It was like a medium-sized drink.
Oh.
Totally joking.
Oh.
But you get the point.
God. Okay. All right. Good. I was
Isn't
going
that
to say
terrible?
that was their first day working. It's like when you go to Chipotle and you ask for just a little more sour cream and they don't know how to do that. So you get double and you're like,
yeah. The guy comes out with a beer keg, but sour cream comes out. Dude, I didn't need all that.
But I guess I'll eat it. Here it comes.
Why don't you say we leave it there? We left people with 4 nuggets. Number 1, check into Overcast. Think about how you're consuming content. Can it be quicker? Can you save time? Just might be worth it. Number 2, pure protein bars. Man, Kevin's on that birthday cake game. I'm on the lemon cake game.
Tell us which one your favorite
What's
is.
your game? Kevin's got his French Leghorn sandwich.
French Leghorn. Yep.
Yeah, give it a shot. When's the last time you put a French toast bagel on a piece of deli meat?
I think that everybody should try it.
Everyone should try it.
And then shoot us a message on Instagram and give us your rating out of 10.
If our DMs aren't getting flooded with French toast sandwiches, then
I think the
I'm
French
quitting.
Leghorn it's a food truck, and that's all we serve. It's just
I like the name a lot. I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
I think you nailed it.
I was excited about it as well.
Also, consider using reminders. I don't like it when people say they forgot about stuff. Dude, it's 2020. You
Siri
have a
is in your
million
pocket
apps.
right now.
You have a million apps.
Yeah.
To remind you. You don't have to remember.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to remember. I'm asking your pocket to remember.
That's the best part about it.
Yeah. Kevin, send us out of here. I'm teeing you up for a big, fat outro
The
on an
biggest one
episode
yet.
with John Hall.
That's right.
Let us go home.
Let's say thank you once again to John Hall for joining us
Thank you, John.
today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget, if you are looking to change your life and focus more on your own legacy, a FinalVibe membership provides you with immediate access to a community of people doing just that, as well as plenty of other exclusive content. Also, let's throw a quick plug for our Spotify playlist. Search
Quick
FinalVibe
plug.
in Spotify. We have a Spotify playlist that is curated by a good friend of ours, Josh Mydell. And the theme for the next couple of weeks is going to be 80s music. So check that out, and you can bring FinalVibe everywhere you go. Today's episode was produced by co-host Andrew White. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to future episodes and tell one other person about us. We appreciate all the support that we've received so far, and we hope to see you guys online. FinalVibe is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check out our coffee and apparel on our website, finalvibe.com. Enjoy the rest of your week, folks. We'll see you back here next Tuesday for another episode. Thank you so much for listening.